There is a moment, a single, suspended moment in time where everything shifts. Not loudly, not dramatically, not with the crash of thunder or the breaking of glass, but quietly, so quietly that most people miss it entirely. It happens in the space between one breath and the next. It happens in the pause before he speaks, in the way his eyes move across the room and land on you differently than they did before. Something in him knows. Something deep and ancient and wordless inside of him knows. And what happens next, what he does in that exact moment, will tell you everything you have ever needed to know about him, about this connection, about what was real and what was simply comfortable. You already feel it, don't you? You already know why you are here, watching this, drawn to these words at this particular hour of this particular day. Because something inside of you has already shifted too. Something in you changed first, slowly, invisibly, like a tide pulling back from a shoreline it once rushed toward with everything it had. And he felt it. He felt it before you even fully understood it yourself. The soul always communicates what the mouth has not yet found the courage to say. What you are about to hear is not simply about a relationship. It is not simply about a man and a woman, or two people navigating the ordinary complications of love. What you are about to hear is a story about energy, about frequency, about the profound, almost terrifying intelligence of the human soul when it senses it is about to lose something it never fully appreciated while it still had it. This is a story about awakening, his awakening, and what it reveals about everything that was buried between the two of you for far too long. So close your eyes for just a moment. Not literally, stay with me, but let your mind go quiet. Let yourself drop down out of the noise of the day and into the deeper, slower current underneath it. Feel the weight of what you have been carrying. Feel how long you have been waiting for something to change, for something to crack open, for some sign that what you poured into this connection mattered, that you were seen, that you were felt. That somewhere underneath all of his silence and distance and unavailability, there was a man who actually understood the value of what was standing right in front of him. You have been patient, remarkably, almost painfully patient. And something in that patience has now begun to transform into something else, into clarity, into power. Into the quiet, dignified decision to stop shrinking yourself to fit into a space that was never designed to hold all of you. And he felt the moment you made that decision, even if you never said a word. The universe showed me something when I began to truly understand how soul-level connections work. It showed me that energy between two people is never invisible. Not really. We tell ourselves it is. We tell ourselves that feelings can be hidden, that withdrawal can be disguised as busyness, that emotional distance can be explained away by stress or timing or circumstance. But the body knows. The nervous system knows. There is a thread, invisible to the naked eye but absolutely real in every energetic sense, that runs between two people who have ever shared a genuine connection. And when tension is applied to that thread from one end, the other person feels it. They cannot explain it. They may not even be able to name it, but they feel it. Like a hum, like a low frequency that vibrates just underneath conscious awareness, unsettling something in their chest that they cannot quite locate or understand. This is what is happening to him right now. He is not sleeping as well. He tells himself it is work, it is stress, it is the season. It is 1,000 things that have nothing to do with you. But in the quiet dark of 3 in the morning, when the distractions fall away and the mind goes honest, it is your face that arrives. It is the memory of something you said, something you laughed about, some ordinary moment that his sleeping mind has decided to present to him now, suddenly luminous with a significance he never granted it when it was actually happening. This is what loss does to the human psyche. It illuminates, in retrospect, what negligence obscured in the present. He is beginning to see you more clearly now than he ever did when clarity would have actually mattered. And that is perhaps the most heartbreaking and most instructive truth about human beings. We rarely understand what we have until the energy of it begins to leave the room. If this resonates with what you have been experiencing, type the word clarity in the comments. Because what I am about to walk you through next is not just emotional, it is deeply psychological, and I want you to feel witnessed as you hear it. There is a very specific sequence of internal events that happens inside a man when he realizes, at the soul level, not just the surface level, that he is losing you. And it does not look the way most people imagine it will look. It does not arrive as a grand declaration. It does not show up immediately as remorse or effort or transformation. No. The first thing that happens is far more primitive than any of that. The first thing that happens is panic. Not the visible kind, not the kind he will ever admit to, but a deep cellular panic that registers in his body as restlessness, as irritability, as a sudden, inexplicable urge to reach for his phone and scroll through your messages, your photographs, the digital trail of what you once were to each other. He is looking for evidence. Evidence that it was real. Evidence that he did not imagine the warmth of what existed between you. Evidence that there is still time. The second thing that happens is denial. And this is where it becomes psychologically complex, because the denial does not look like indifference. It actually looks like its opposite. He begins to reassure himself, quietly, internally, that you are still there, that you have not actually gone anywhere, that the shift he is sensing is temporary, is moody, is something that will pass. He minimizes the signal because the signal is too uncomfortable to receive at full volume. This is not a character flaw unique to him. It is a deeply human mechanism, a protective response of the ego against information that threatens its current construction of reality. He has built a version of reality in which you are stable, in which you are constant, in which your presence is guaranteed. Your withdrawal, even if it is only energetic, even if you have not changed a single external behavior, is destabilizing that construction. And the ego, before it will allow itself to grieve, will first try desperately to argue against what it already knows. But here's the thing. The soul does not engage in denial. The soul operates on a different frequency entirely. And it is the soul, not the ego, but wakes him at 3 in the morning. It is the soul that places your memory behind his eyes in unguarded moments. It is the soul that creates the hollow sensation in his chest that he cannot attribute to anything concrete, because he has not yet allowed himself to be concrete about what is actually happening. The soul is trying to deliver a message that the ego is not yet ready to receive. And you, your shift in energy, your quiet reclamation of yourself, you are the catalyst for that entire internal drama. You are doing that simply by returning to yourself, simply by stopping the energetic outpouring, simply by deciding, in whatever small and private way you have decided it, that your own wholeness matters. Do you understand the power of that? I want you to really sit with that for a moment. You have not done anything dramatic. You have not delivered ultimatums or speeches. You have not performed distance or manufactured jealousy, or any of the hollow strategies that the internet will sometimes suggest to you. You have simply begun, perhaps slowly, perhaps imperfectly, perhaps still with grief in your chest. You have simply begun to come home to yourself. And that energetic homecoming is more powerful than any external action you could have taken, because it is real, because it operates on the level of truth. And at the level of truth, he can feel exactly what is happening, even when his conscious mind is still working overtime to explain it away. The third thing that happens inside him is the most important. And it is the moment that will reveal everything you need to know about who he actually is and what this connection is actually worth. Because after the panic and after the denial, he arrives at a crossroads. Every man who reaches this moment arrives at the same crossroads. On one side of it is the path of avoidance, doubling down on distance, on pride, on the wounded masculine ego that would rather lose something real than admit that it needs it. On the other side is the path of awakening, the terrifying, humbling, transformative choice to actually feel what he is feeling, to let the loss land in his body without running from it, and to let that feeling motivate genuine change rather than performative gestures. Which path he takes, that is the answer you have been looking for. That is the information you came here to receive. Some men, when they feel this crossroads, will reach out in ways that feel inconsistent and confusing to you. A sudden text after days of silence, an unusually warm comment on something you posted, a casual mention of something that reminds him of you, offered in a way that maintains his plausible deniability, while also keeping the thread between you from going completely cold. This is not necessarily manipulation, though it can become that. At its core, it is the behavior of someone caught between two versions of themselves, the version that is afraid to be vulnerable, and the version that is beginning to understand that vulnerability might be the only thing that saves what he is about to lose. Watch how he behaves in the days and weeks that follow this internal moment. Watch whether his actions carry weight, or whether they are simply breadcrumbs, enough to keep you close without requiring anything real from him. Your discernment in this period is everything, because he will follow whatever you respond to, and you have now arrived at the place where you must decide what you are willing to respond to. If what I am describing feels uncomfortably familiar, I want you to take a breath right now, a real one, into your belly, because what you are navigating is not simple, and the emotional weight of it deserves to be acknowledged. You have spent a significant amount of time in an energetic space of giving more than you were receiving, of adjusting and accommodating, and waiting for reciprocity that arrived inconsistently, if at all. And somewhere in the accumulated weight of all of that waiting, you began, without perhaps fully realizing it, to grieve. Not just the relationship, but the version of this person you believed you had seen clearly. The version you trusted was real. The version you trusted was real. The version you built a quiet interior world around. That grief is legitimate. It is not weakness. It is the appropriate emotional response to investing deeply in something and discovering that the depth was not equally shared. But here is what I need you to understand. And I need you to really hear this. Your grief is also your greatest power right now. Because it is honest. Because it is real. Because it has burned away the parts of you that were willing to accept less than what you deserved. And what remains? What is left of you after the grief has moved through and taken what it needed to take? What remains is something he has perhaps never been confronted with before. What remains is you, undiminished. You without the performance of contentment. You without the energy you were spending trying to make something work that could only work if both people were fully present to it. You returned to yourself. And that version of you is extraordinary. That version of you is what he is now sensing he is losing. Not the accommodating version, not the waiting version, the real version, the complete version. The version that existed before this connection asked you to make yourself smaller. The universe showed me this truth through watching how energy moves in the spaces between people who love each other imperfectly. It showed me that the moment a person stops seeking and starts simply being, fully, unapologetically, without the constant negotiation of their own worth, the entire energetic dynamic of a connection reorganizes itself around that new frequency. He is experiencing that reorganization right now. Something that felt stable to him has shifted. Something he thought he understood has revealed a depth he was not prepared for. And the question, the only question that matters, is whether he is capable of rising to meet that depth, or whether the height of it will frighten him back into the familiar comfort of his own limitations. Type, "I see myself" in the comments if you are beginning to recognize your own power in what I am describing. Because that recognition is the beginning of everything. There is a spiritual dimension to this moment that I cannot leave unexplored. Because what is happening between you and this person is not only psychological. It exists at a level that psychology alone cannot fully map. When two souls enter into a genuine connection, even an imperfect one, even a painful one, they leave an energetic imprint on each other that does not simply dissolve because the relationship has become difficult or distant. That imprint is real. It communicates across the ordinary distances. It speaks in the language of synchronicities and inexplicable feelings and the specific quality of silence that falls between two people who are not speaking about the thing that matters most. He is living inside that silence right now. He is feeling the weight of the imprint you have left on him, feeling it perhaps more acutely now that your energy has withdrawn slightly into yourself, the way you feel the warmth of sunlight most precisely in the moment clouds begin to pass across it. This does not mean you should wait indefinitely. This does not mean that his internal reckoning obligates you to pause your own becoming. The most powerful thing you can do in this moment, the most spiritually aligned, psychologically healthy, energetically authentic thing you can do is to continue. Continue returning to yourself. Continue building the interior life that has nothing to do with whether he shows up or doesn't. Continue making choices that honor what you now know about your own worth. Because here is the paradox at the heart of this. The less you need him to arrive, the more clearly he will feel the reality of what he stands to lose. And the more clearly he feels it, the more unavoidable the crossroads becomes for him. You are not playing a game. You are living in your truth. And your truth, fully inhabited, is the most compelling force in this entire dynamic. Some of you watching this are at the very beginning of this process, just starting to feel the thread of your own energy pulling back into yourself, just beginning to taste the quiet power of no longer performing availability for someone who has not been fully present. Some of you are further along, already standing in a place of clarity that has some grief in it, but also something that feels surprisingly like relief. And some of you are in the most complex place of all, the place where he has already begun to feel the loss and has begun to reach, to shift, to show up differently. And you are trying to determine whether what you are seeing is real transformation or simply the temporary intensity of someone afraid of losing what they never fully chose when they had the chance to choose it freely. To all of you, wherever you are in this, I want to say this. Trust what you feel in your body. Not in the first moment, not in the rush of hope when a gesture arrives that looks like what you have been waiting for, but over time, in the accumulation of consistent, unperformed, unprompted evidence that something in him has genuinely rearranged itself. Love at the level you deserve is not a series of peaks separated by long valleys of uncertainty. It does not ask you to spend your quiet moments wondering where you stand. It does not reserve its warmth for the moments when it senses your withdrawal. Real love, soul-level love, the love that this connection may or may not be capable of becoming. Real love is consistent in its choosing. It chooses you when it is convenient and when it is not. It chooses you when you are radiant and when you are struggling. It chooses you not because it is afraid of losing you, but because it cannot imagine choosing anything else. That is the standard, and you are allowed to hold it. You are allowed to let it be the quiet, unwavering measure against which you assess everything he offers in the days and weeks and months ahead. You are allowed to stop accepting the almost there. You are allowed to let the relief of your own boundaries feel like coming home rather than like punishment. You are allowed to grieve what this was, while simultaneously stepping firmly into what you are now becoming. Those two things can coexist. They do not cancel each other out. The grief and the power are the same river. And he will either learn to swim in that river, or he will stand on the bank watching the current carry you somewhere he no longer has access to. Either way, and I want you to hear this with every part of yourself, either way, you will be exactly where you are meant to be. Because the version of you that this process has revealed is not the version that can be diminished by someone else's limitations. That version is done with diminishment. That version has looked at its own reflection and recognized something worth protecting, something worth honoring, something that will not ever again make itself invisible in order to make another person comfortable. The exact moment he realizes he is losing you is not the most important moment in this story. The most important moment is this one, right now. The moment you understand, with the quiet certainty that lives below fear and hope and longing and all of the noise, that you were never the one in danger of being lost. You were always the destination. You were always the frequency,
everything else was trying to find. And now, finally, fully, in the deepest part of your knowing, you are beginning to believe it. That belief is your beginning, and it is more than enough.